you go online, you'll see a lot of discussion, a lot of discourse about Doctor Who allegedly getting woke and going broke. But in terms of what the actual definition of broke is, Doctor Who's actually been doing quite well in terms of its viewing figures. Now, if you do look at just the raw viewing figures, just the raw numbers, then yeah, you might have a bit of a skewed perception as to how well or how poorly the show's actually doing. But let's get our baseline here. So the last episode, Legend of the Sea Devils, it did pull in a pretty low audience compared to what Doctor Who has done in the past. Here's the BARB viewing figures. It ranked 25th for the week with 3.46 million. If you go and search, because it broadcast on the Easter Sunday, if you search for Sun, it was bested by his The Thief, his wife, and the Canoe with 8.6. However, that had multiple episodes that could be watched on the ITV player, which allowed it to be bingeable, which did affect the numbers. But 1, 2. It was still the third most watched of Easter Sunday, behind Britain's Got Talent and his Thief, The Thief, his wife, and the Canoe. But you still don't really want to be seeing Doctor Who with 3.5 million viewers. So you think Doctor Who is dying, it's dead. This is like clearly a bad showing for what should be one of the biggest dramas in the country right now. However, if you do look at the broader trends for TV dramas, it paints a much more interesting picture. So this is the BARB 7-day viewing figures for the past week just gone, the 27th of June to the 3rd of July, and the number one most viewed drama is 5.9 million, and it's 2 episodes of Sherwood with 5.4 as well, Great British Zombie with 4.4, Wimbledon with 4.2. Now, obviously, Doctor Who probably should be doing better than 3.4 million, but going from 3.4 million to 5.9 million, it's not the massive, huge discrepancy that you'd think it is. And considering Wimbledon 4 million, Celebrity Goggles 3.8, if Doctor Who had broadcast during this week, it would have made it into the top 10. So it just shows that was a particularly competitive week, or maybe this was just a bad week for everybody else. One interesting thing that you got to compare to when it comes to viewing figures, though, is that when you look at the biggest shows in the world right now, what do you think of? You think of stuff like Obi-Wan or Stranger Things. Now, the BARB have been collating data from streaming services, and this is from the week that Obi-Wan made its debut on Disney+. Silent Witness got the most with 6.9 million, nice. However, if you scroll all the way down the rankings, you will find Obi-Wan Episode 1 with 2.4 million from Disney+. This is, to my knowledge, the only time in the past year that a Disney Plus show has actually made it into the top 50 of the BARB for its respective week. If you go back through the past couple of weeks, Stranger Things, despite being indisputably one of the biggest shows on the planet right now, does not crack the top 50, which means even though Doctor Who got its lowest revived series viewing figures ever with Legend of the Sea Devils with 3.4 million, it was still able to outperform the big streaming giant shows. And even if Doctor Who was out of the equation entirely, everything else on British TV that charted was doing better than those other biggest shows on the planet. You think Silent Witness is a bit of a niche crime show, but it got 3 to 4 times the viewership of Obi-Wan Series 1 Episode 1. Now, the viewership has actually been, at time of those 28-day figures, no, they're 7-day ones. We're going to give everybody the 7-day treatment. Obviously, if you give the 28-day treatment to Obi-Wan, you'd have to do the same for Doctor Who and everything else. But for some reason, the BARB aren't doing 28-day viewing figures at the moment. I don't know why. They're only doing 7 for some reason, and I think it's a bit of a downgrade. But either way, when you look at Doctor Who doing 3.5 million viewers for Legend of the Sea Devils at its lowest, but Obi-Wan at its peak, a Star Wars show at its peak, with just under 2.5 million on its launch week, it kind of makes you wonder, where is the bar for success? It will does this count international figures? No, these are British viewing figures only, but I think that's a fair comparison for this discussion, because obviously Obi-Wan is streaming in many other territories. I'm sure it does great numbers in America as well and across other parts of the world. But when people talk about Doctor Who getting woke and going broke, they are 99% of the time referring to the BARB UK viewing figures. We have to treat this equally. We can't compare Doctor Who on Easter Sunday in the UK to Disney Plus worldwide or Disney Plus in America. It's a massively different comparison to be making here. So, what is the bar for success here? And I also have to be fair as well. Streaming services like Netflix and Disney do not have the universal exposure and audience base of a public service broadcaster or just a broadcaster on Freeview TV, like ITV, like Channel 5, like Channel 4, BBC One, BBC Two, etc. However, it's interesting that people say, no, BBC is dying, terrestrial TV is dying, everyone's moving to streaming services, when the data just doesn't bear that out. Like, I'm not saying that Netflix and Disney have insignificant viewer bases, and obviously people who subscribe to Disney Plus, they get their money either way at the end of the month, even if they watch Obi-Wan. Like, I've not watched Obi-Wan, but I still have a Disney Plus subscription, you know. It's also the same for the license fee. I do not watch on the BBC what is here on this chart. I do not watch The Repair Shop, but I still pay my license fee. That's just how these that's just how the industry works. I do not watch Silent Witness, but nearly 7 million people did this week, and it massively eclipsed something like Obi-Wan. So what is the bar for success here? Because if Doctor Who is meant to be dying, but streaming service is thriving, it kind of seems like people aren't actually looking at the numbers. One reason Netflix do not want to be giving numbers out, allegedly, and there's some industry talk about this, the BARB has kind of forced them to give up their numbers and also do their own estimates as well. But one reason Netflix doesn't like to officially give out their numbers, and also other streaming services, is so that if the show is successful, they don't have to pay their stars and their crew and everything even more for second seasons where they would demand more pay, because they can just say, oh no, the series bombed. Oh, only we have the numbers for that. We can't tell you how it did. It's also why they give really strange statistics for their shows, like Bridgerton was watched by 40 million households across the world. It was watched 4 billion minutes were watched. Like, nobody else goes for minutes. What on earth are you on? Finn says, with how much subscriptions to everything you want cost, the TV license doesn't seem that bad. Oh, and let's not forget, Netflix is hemorrhaging money at the moment, to the extent where they've had to massively wheel back a load of their plans. Disney Plus, Disney makes most of its profits from theme park attractions. So things like the films make money, of course, but they could hypothetically be loss leaders for the theme parks. You know, you see the film, you go to the live events, you go to the theme parks. That's where they get most of their money, most of their profits from. Amazon as well. Amazon Video as a division hemorrhages money for Amazon, whereas the BBC is doing fine. In fact, BBC Studios have hit record profits this last year. The corporation splashed the cash on drama as it emerged from the pandemic, according to the annual report out today. This is a report from Deadline. However, the report contained worrying statistics on how many Brits are using the BBC each week, coming at a time when it's under pressure from the government. BBC Studios, the corporation's commercial arm, had a strong year as Director General Tim Davie placed more stress on generating higher commercial returns, with turnover increasing by 30% to 1.6 billion and EBITDA rising by 56% to 226 million, topping 200 million for the first time. The gains, which were put down to the strong performances of key brands such as Doctor Who and Top Gear, plus new shows The Outlaws, The Pursuit of Love, and This Is Going to Hurt, come as BBC Studios' borrowing limit has been increased by the government to 750 million. Now, considering that Doctor Who is meant to be a dying show, or it's gone woke and going broke, and it is being directly cited as one of the reasons why the BBC Studios at least has had one of its most successful years ever in terms of the commercial arm, I think Doctor Who is doing just fine. Now, when it comes to comparing Silent Witness 7 million viewing figures, a consecutive season and episode and stuff, compared to Doctor Who Easter underperforming, like this is not a good number, okay? I just want to stress that. This is not a good number in this context. However, it's a one-off Easter special, and it also has so many other revenue streams when it comes to Doctor Who as well. Silent Witness will get a DVD and Blu-ray release, it'll get box sets and stuff. However, Doctor Who is a continual money-making machine when it comes to the license agreements. You know, Big Finish has to pay the BBC for a license to do the audio dramas. The Peter Cushing movies have recently had a 4K restoration for Steelbook and box sets, and recently played at movie theatres again. You've got the collection sets, you've got merch, you've got everything. Even though Doctor Who, in this case, has half the audience of Silent Witness, it is making the BBC significantly more money for its commercial division. Same for Top Gear as well. But yeah, This Is Going to Hurt, by the way, is really, really good. John A., the bar keeps getting lower, the whole TV business is in limbo. It's not in limbo. It's still doing quite well. It's just that the bar for success is changing because there's so many more options. The audience is like way more spread out. Like I mentioned earlier with Netflix and Amazon as well, they just do streaming services, or like Amazon does more. Like in terms of a video platform, an entertainment platform just does streaming, whereas the BBC does like news, current affairs, live events, does radio, does children's. Yeah, you do not want Amazon and Netflix to be the sole like monopoly on children's TV. Absolutely not. And what the BBC, Miss Tyler's prediction for the centenary ratings, it depends on how everything else around the centenary does. I'd say at least 5 million, maybe 6. It depends on how it gets promoted. But this new story is interesting though. BBC Studios profits rocket past 250 million, while Netflix is hemorrhaging money, while Amazon Prime is a loss maker for Amazon's empire, shall we say. Apple TV is the same as well. Disney, we don't really know, but that's definitely a loss leader for its theme park attractions. That's just their business model right now. It's kind of mad that we've got like these public service broadcasters like the BBC, like Channel 4, boasting like record profits or being able to stay afloat and responsibly work with taxpayer money, or in Channel 4's case, advertiser revenue for a public service broadcaster.